Joining me now, Fox News contributor Andy McCarthy and Tom Fitton, president of Judicial Watch. All right, Tom, what is the most disturbing fraud allegation you've seen so far, and what kind of impact do you think that's going to have?
Well, it's up in Pennsylvania. It's the structural fraud that they were counting in a way that we can't be assured that the count was legitimate, and that it's affected at least 650,000 ballots that were counted effectively away from the prying eyes of anyone who would have an interest in it, namely the president's campaign. So those ballots are suspect. You had the delay in counting, which is a suspect. You have the counting that changes results from the election day that is suspect. And if I'm in Pennsylvania and I'm a court, I would be worried about blessing a process that is so rife with apparent opportunities for fraud. And remember, in the end, it's the state legislature of Pennsylvania under the Constitution that decides whether to bless this mess or not. And then subsequently, it's Congress that decides whether to take up Electoral College votes and bless them, despite the evidence of a blown election in Pennsylvania in terms of the processes caused by having, as you pointed out, all these mailed ballots coming in and flooding the system in a way that they knew was going to break it.
Andy, I mean, even if just 20% of these sworn affidavits have any validity, I mean, that adds up to more evidence of fraud than anything we saw in terms of evidence for collusion in the last election. How do you see this playing out in the next several weeks?
Well, I think it's probably not going to play out for too much longer, Jesse. It's got, we have a real deadline here under federal law of between December 8th and December 14th. And I think that the problem that the president faces is they are going to be able to prove instances of fraud. If they weren't, this would be the first election in the history of elections that didn't have some fraud. But there's the problem they have is there's a mismatch between the remedy they're asking for and what they're going to be able to prove. So I think, as Tom is mentioning, there's under a cloud probably about 650,000, 680,000, something like that, votes in Pennsylvania. There's 1.2 million in Michigan. There's no way the courts are going to throw out the hundreds of thousands of votes in any one county because of suspect fraud. What they may do is allow more scrutiny of the pile of votes that's suspect. And if you can knock out individual particularized ballots because of their irregularities, you'll be able to do that. But the thing is, they're so far behind in Pennsylvania and Michigan that I think it's too high a mountain to climb.
Yeah, but you know what? So I agree, but it's still worth adjudicating. You got to segregate these suspicious ballots. You have to go through them with a fine tooth comb. And I don't know if you guys heard the top of the show. Would you guys agree that whether it's state legislatures or a national commission, they need to go back and audit every single state's election? They need to look at the machines. They need to see if processes were followed here. This is the first election this country has ever had with more people voting by mail than people showing up on election day. And if you're going to continue to go forward in this same model, because I suspect the Democrats will do this, you can't have half the country being suspicious of the outcome. Tom?
Well, Jesse, my view is that the left will be happy to do that after January.
You're right.
This needs to be done by the state legislators now before they bless this compromised election in Pennsylvania. I think it's the same in Georgia. And Congress, are they going to bless this? Are they going to say, oh, we saw the 5 election results across 5 states change from election night, and we're just going to presume it was all done on the up and up?
Newt Gingrich said the same thing. He doesn't understand why state legislatures aren't doing more. They seem to be, as he said, playing badminton while the other team is playing contact football. All right, Andy and Tom, thank you guys very much for your expertise. I really appreciate it.